Do you ever feel like you're performing for someone else's approval? For decades, many of us, especially women over 40, have been trapped in a relentless pursuit of perfection, constantly seeking validation from the outside. But what if I told you there's a powerful shift happening, an age of authenticity, where embracing your true self is the ultimate rebellion? If that question hits a little too close to home, stay with me. Because this conversation might be exactly what your heart has been asking for. There's something that happens gradually in your 30s. And then suddenly, unmistakably, after 40, you start noticing how much of your life has been shaped by what other people needed from you or expected from you. You look back at the roles you've played, the reliable one, the peacekeeper, the hard worker, the flexible one, the woman who holds everything together even when she's tired to the bone. And you realize how often you've swallowed your truth just to keep life running smoothly for everyone else. For years, maybe decades, you've been the woman who smooths things over. The one who says, it's fine even when it isn't. The one who makes herself smaller to keep the peace. The one who takes the temperature of every room before deciding how she's allowed to feel. You've been living with this quiet, constant pressure to be pleasant, agreeable, graceful, put together, capable, calm, understanding, even when you're exhausted. And somewhere along the way, without even noticing, you became a version of yourself built more from other people's expectations than from your own desires. But here's the thing many women begin to feel in their 40s. A subtle pull, like something inside you is finally stretching its arms after a long sleep. A voice you ignored for years starts whispering again, and the whisper sounds like, I'm tired. I want something different now. I don't want to pretend anymore. I want to feel like myself again. There's relief in admitting this, but also fear. Because who are you, really, when you strip away the people-pleasing, the perfectionism, the habit of performing? Who are you when you're not bending yourself into shapes for others? The truth is, you're entering a new chapter, a chapter where authenticity isn't just appealing, it feels necessary. A chapter where you're no longer willing to lose yourself for approval. A chapter where you start to realize that the way you've always done things might not be the way you want to keep doing them. This video is an invitation into that chapter, a gentle one, a warm one, a real one. We're going to talk about what happens when you stop living for the gaze of others and start living for the woman inside you, the one who's been waiting patiently to come forward. We're going to explore why women over 40 are leading a quiet revolution in how we show up, how we speak, how we choose, and how we finally learn to honor ourselves. Take a breath. Let your shoulders drop. You don't have to perform here. This is your space, your moment, your turning point. Let's begin. There's something about reaching your 40s that changes the way you experience the world and the way you experience yourself. It's not something you wake up and analyze. It's something you feel. A heaviness that's been sitting on your chest for years suddenly becomes recognizable. You can finally name it. You're tired of performing, tired of striving, tired of trying to keep up with a version of life that was never meant to be sustainable. The world we grew up in rewarded women who made everything look easy. Women who juggled careers, parenting, relationships, friendships, emotional labor, physical appearance, social obligations, self-care, home management, all without dropping anything. We were handed the idea of having it all, but no one mentioned that all meant carrying an impossible load. Social media poured gasoline on the pressure. Suddenly, you weren't just comparing yourself to the women around you. You were comparing yourself to curated, perfectly edited strangers, perfect houses, perfect bodies, perfect routines, perfect marriages, perfect lives. Even if you knew deep down it wasn't real, some part of you internalized the performance, and so you perform too. But after 40, something shifts, not dramatically, not overnight, more like a slow awakening. You begin questioning the things you once did without thinking. You start to notice how draining it is to constantly anticipate other people's reactions, how exhausting it is to maintain appearances, how suffocating it feels to say yes when everything inside you wants to say no. And you reach a point where the weight of being everything to everyone finally becomes heavier than the fear of disappointing someone. It's not rebellion, it's not impulsive, it's exhaustion meeting clarity. The world has also changed in ways that impact your tolerance for inauthenticity. The pandemic cracked open the illusion that performance equals stability. People lost jobs, relationships shifted, priorities rearranged. Life suddenly felt shorter, more fragile, more precious. And in that collective shift, many women looked around and thought, I don't want to spend the time I have left performing. You've lived enough life to understand loss, disappointment, resilience, and reinvention. You've survived things you once thought would break you. You've rebuilt yourself more than once. And with that experience comes an unspoken wisdom. You no longer need to prove yourself to anyone. This is why women over 40 are leading the age of authenticity. You've earned the right to speak your truth. You've earned the right to stop pretending. You've earned the right to choose yourself, even if someone else doesn't understand it. What's happening now is a great unburdening, the slow release of pressures and expectations that never truly belonged to you. You're beginning to let go of what drains you. You're stepping away from the roles that kept you small. You're shedding the old belief that your worth exists in how well you please others. And in that shedding, a deep, steady voice begins to rise within you. Not loud, not dramatic, just honest. It says, I want more truth in my life. I want more peace. I want more of myself. This is the doorway to authenticity, and you've just stepped through it. There's something interesting that starts happening once you reach your 40s. You begin to notice just how many of your choices have been shaped by expectations you didn't consciously agree to. Some of them came from childhood, some from culture, some from the people you loved, and some simply from wanting to avoid conflict. For years, maybe even decades, it felt easier to just go along with things. Easier to be agreeable, easy to be flexible, easier to be the one who holds everything together. You probably didn't call it people-pleasing at the time. It was just how you survived, how you kept peace, how you stayed liked. But one day, that way of living starts to feel tight, like clothing you've outgrown but kept wearing because you weren't sure what else to put on. You start to feel the weight of every should you absorbed over the years. How you should look, how you should behave, how you should parent, how you should partner, how you should age, how you should speak, how you should feel. And underneath all those expectations, your own voice has been trying to breathe. Women over 40 often talk about this quiet moment of realization. Not dramatic, not loud, just a soft awareness that you've been performing so many roles that your own needs ended up buried somewhere underneath the script. You catch yourself smiling when you don't mean it, agreeing to plans you don't want, saying yes to avoid explaining why you want no. You apologize for things that don't need apologies. You shrink a little in certain conversations. You adjust your tone to keep someone else comfortable. And slowly, you start seeing it for what it is: a lifetime of conditioning. It's not your fault. You didn't wake up one day and decide to abandon yourself. You were praised for being easygoing, praised for being helpful, praised for being understanding, praised for being low maintenance. But the truth is, being low maintenance came at a high cost: your sense of self. By this stage of life, something in you is simply tired, not depressed, not defeated, just done with the constant pressure of looking polished, acting perfect, showing up flawlessly, and meeting expectations you never agreed to in the first place. The energy required to present a put-together version of yourself becomes too heavy. It's not that you're giving up, it's that you're waking up. And the more you pay attention, the more you begin to notice how much of your life was lived for the approval of others. How often you said yes to avoid disappointing someone. How often you softened your truth to avoid judgment. How often you pushed down your needs because you didn't want to burden anyone. Then comes the unexpected liberation, the tiny moment when you stop caring about impressing anyone. It doesn't happen all at once. It's a slow, steady shift, a reclaiming of energy, of space, of voice. You stop obsessing over being liked and start focusing on being honest. You stop forcing yourself into the mold of the perfect woman and start asking who you actually want to be. This shedding process can feel strange, almost like peeling away layers you didn't even know were there. But as those layers fall, what's left is something real, something solid, something you can finally recognize. This isn't rebellion. It's coming home, and it's one of the most powerful steps toward authenticity. Authenticity gets talked about a lot, but when you strip away the self-help language, it really comes down to one simple thing: acting in alignment with who you actually are. Not the version people expect. Not the version you've performed for years. Not the version that keeps everyone comfortable. The version that feels honest when no one is watching. Something shifts inside a woman after 40. You begin listening to yourself in a way you've never done before. Maybe because life has humbled you a few times. Maybe because you've lived enough years to see what matters and what doesn't. Maybe because the cost of pretending has become too high. Or maybe because you're finally giving yourself permission to want things just for you, not because they make sense to anyone else. Authenticity isn't about shouting your truth or reinventing your entire life overnight. It's quieter than that. It's choosing what feels right instead of what looks right. It's making decisions based on your own values instead of anticipated reactions. It's noticing when your body tenses in a situation and taking that information seriously. It's giving yourself time to pause before answering a request instead of automatically agreeing. It's learning the difference between being kind and being compliant. There's a kind of freedom that comes when you start living from your inner compass. You stop chasing validation with the desperation of your younger years. You stop molding yourself to stay small. You stop twisting into whatever shape will keep the peace. Instead, your choices begin to reflect what actually matters: peace, integrity, gentleness, emotional safety, joy, and the truth of who you are now, not who you were expected to be at 25 or 30. Something surprising happens when you begin showing up as your real self. Your relationships shift. Some people pull closer because your honesty gives them permission to be honest too. Conversations feel deeper, more nourishing. You begin connecting with people who love you for your presence, not your performance. And yes, some relationships become quieter or even fade, not because you've done something wrong, but because authenticity naturally filters out what no longer fits. But the real gift? You stop abandoning yourself. You start standing taller, breathing deeper, speaking more slowly because you're not rushing to please. You begin to trust your intuition, that quiet voice you used to override. You notice what gives you energy and what drains you. You become more intentional with your time, your emotions, your boundaries. And the beauty of it is this: authenticity is contagious. When a woman chooses to live honestly, she gives the women around her courage to do the same. Your truth ripples. Your presence shifts rooms. Your quiet confidence speaks louder than the version of you who tried so hard to be perfect. Authenticity isn't a destination. It's a practice, a daily choosing, a gentle returning to yourself. And once you start, everything, absolutely everything, begins to feel lighter. When you start choosing authenticity over approval, you begin to notice something you may not have paid attention to before: the moments, the people, the situations that pull you back into performing. Sometimes it's subtle: a comment from a friend that makes you straighten up and pretend you're fine. A family gathering where you slip into that old role of being agreeable and easygoing. Even something as simple as scrolling on social media and suddenly feeling the pressure to be more, do more, or look better. It's strange how automatic these responses can be. You don't sit there thinking, "Let me perform now." It happens almost without thinking, because you've lived so many years responding to what the world seemed to want from you. And the truth is, you can't just decide one day to never fall into people-pleasing again. You have to slowly notice the patterns. You have to gently catch yourself in the act. And you have to give yourself enough compassion to realize that unlearning takes time. A good place to start is simply noticing your triggers. Not in a harsh, analytical way, but with curiosity. Maybe you notice that certain people make you second-guess yourself. Maybe certain environments make you shrink. Maybe you catch yourself rehearsing what you're going to say, worried about how you'll sound. These little signs aren't failures, they're clues. They show you where you've been trained to value someone else's comfort more than your own truth. And once you start noticing these moments, you can begin to shift them. Not by pushing or forcing or demanding authenticity from yourself, but by pausing before you respond. A single pause can change everything. You can feel your instinct to accommodate, to smooth things over, to give the answer everyone expects. And then you can breathe. You can ask yourself quietly, what do I actually feel? What do I actually want to say here? The answer doesn't have to be perfect. It only has to be honest. Unlearning the need for constant approval also means rewriting the stories you've carried since childhood. Maybe you were praised for being quiet, for not making trouble, for being easy. Maybe people complimented you for being responsible, dependable, calm, even when those traits were born from fear or pressure or wanting to keep the peace. And so you learned to survive by disappearing pieces of yourself. That was never a flaw. It was a strategy. A younger version of you did what she had to do. But your older self doesn't need those strategies anymore. Authenticity grows in the small moments where you choose yourself. It might look like telling a friend you're actually tired instead of pretending you're okay. It might look like saying no without padding it with excuses. It might look like sharing an opinion you would have stayed quiet about in the past. These aren't huge, dramatic acts. They're tiny rebellions, and they add up. Imperfection plays a big role here too. When you stop performing, you stop trying to present a polished version of your life. You allow yourself to show up messy, flawed, human. And something surprising happens when you do that. People loosen around you. They relate to you more. They trust you more. They feel safe enough to be imperfect in front of you, too. Authenticity is contagious, and the pressure you once felt to always be on starts to fade. You no longer need to curate every detail of your life like a display. You can finally exhale. You can finally belong to yourself. This chapter of your life is about building small habits of honesty, not with the world, but with yourself. It's about catching the moments where you start shrinking and gently choosing a different path. It's about learning how to show up in your life the way you've always wished you could. You don't have to become loud or bold or outspoken. Authenticity isn't a personality type. It's a feeling. It's the quiet knowing that your inside and your outside finally match. It's living from your center instead of from expectation. And the more you practice it, the more natural it becomes, until one day you look back and realize you haven't performed for anyone in a very long time. There's something really freeing that happens in your 40s, even if it starts quietly. You begin to measure your life differently. You stop looking at success as a checklist or a polished front or something that needs to look impressive to anyone else. You start asking yourself things you never used to ask because you were too busy pleasing, performing, or proving yourself. Questions like, does this actually make me happy? Do I feel at peace in this life I've built? Is this who I want to be, or who I was taught to be? And that shift, those simple, honest questions, is where authenticity begins to take root. Success in this stage of life stops being about how much you can juggle. Women used to be praised for doing everything, carrying everything, smiling through everything, and maybe you spent years keeping up that performance. You held the house together, the kids together, your job together, your relationships together. You made everything look smooth, even when the inside of your world felt like a storm. But at some point, the exhaustion starts to feel heavier than the guilt. The pressure to be perfect feels pointless, and you realize you want something softer, realer, clearer. You want a life where your insides and your outsides match, where you don't have to pretend you're fine when you're not, or pretend you enjoy things that drain you, or pretend someone's approval matters, when deep down you just want peace. Women in their 40s, 50s, and beyond talk about this moment like a light turning on. They say things like, I just don't care what people think anymore. But it's not indifference. It's clarity. It's finally understanding that your time is limited, your energy is precious, and trading both for someone else's comfort isn't the badge of honor you once believed it was. Living your truth at this age doesn't look dramatic. It looks like choosing rest without apologizing. It looks like telling the truth when something bothers you instead of swallowing it whole. It looks like wearing what makes you feel good instead of what's appropriate. It looks like choosing relationships where you can actually be yourself, not a curated version designed to keep the peace. It looks like redefining success entirely. Success becomes how calm you feel when you wake up, how safe you feel in your own skin, how honestly you speak, how gently you treat yourself, how much of your life feels aligned, not forced. The age of authenticity isn't about being loud or rebellious. It's about being real. It's about coming home to yourself after years of being stretched in every direction. It's about realizing that the world won't fall apart if you stop performing, but your inner world might finally start to come together. This isn't just a personal shift. It's cultural. You can see it everywhere. Women choosing smaller circles, slower lives, softer routines. Women leaving jobs that drain them. Women building businesses that feel meaningful. Women dressing for themselves, taking breaks without guilt, saying things they would have swallowed years ago. Women deciding that success has less to do with how they look or what they achieve, and everything to do with how deeply they feel connected to the woman they are becoming. And here's the part that matters most. Your truth doesn't have to be polished or perfect. It just has to be yours. You are allowed to grow. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to release the version of yourself who lived for applause. You are allowed to rewrite the story that was written when you were too young to understand you had a choice. The age of authenticity isn't a trend. It's a return. A return to yourself, a return to honesty, a return to peace. And as you step into it, you're not just living a new chapter. You're defining success in a way that finally includes you. As we close this conversation, I want you to sit with something simple but powerful. You don't need anyone's permission to live a life that feels true to you. For years, maybe decades, you carried expectations that weren't yours. You molded yourself to fit what people needed. You softened your edges, bit your tongue, took care of everything, and worried far too often about what others thought. You tried to be agreeable, dependable, polite, impressive, put together, even when your inner world was asking for something entirely different. You weren't wrong for doing that. You were surviving. You were trying your best inside a culture that teaches women to measure themselves by approval, performance, and perfection. But now, you're older, you're wiser, you've lived enough life to recognize when something no longer fits. And that's where your power lives. Finding your voice after 40 isn't about becoming someone new. It's about removing everything that kept you from being yourself. It's about peeling away the pressure, the shoulds, the old stories, the silent fears, the roles you outgrew without realizing it. It's about looking inward and saying, "This is who I am now, and I'm allowed to honor her." Your truth won't always look glamorous. Sometimes it looks like saying no when you've said yes your whole life. Sometimes it looks like disappointing others so you can stop disappointing yourself. Sometimes it looks like resting even when you feel guilty, or speaking up even when your voice shakes, or letting yourself be seen without all the filters that once protected you. Authenticity is not a performance. It's a quiet alignment between what you feel and how you live. When you start honoring that alignment, everything changes softly but unmistakably. Your relationships shift. Some will get closer, some will naturally fall away. Your decisions feel lighter. Your days feel more grounded. You stop chasing things that don't matter and begin nurturing things that do. You start choosing your peace over your image, your joy over your perfection, your truth over your approval. And slowly, you begin to recognize yourself again. Not the younger version you think you should return to, but the wiser, deeper, fuller woman you've grown into. The woman who has lived, learned, endured, softened, strengthened. The woman who knows herself better now than she ever could have at 20 or 30. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not starting over. You are stepping into your real life. The age of authenticity is not a concept. It's an invitation to live honestly, to choose boldly, to speak gently but clearly, and to trust yourself more than you ever have. And if you take nothing else from this video, let it be this: your truth is enough. Your voice deserves to be heard. Your life is allowed to match the woman you're becoming. You are not alone in this. Women everywhere are waking up to the same clarity, craving the same honesty, longing for the same relief of finally being themselves. This community exists because the journey is easier when we walk it together. So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for choosing yourself, even in this small way. You are entering a new chapter, one built on truth, peace, intention, and a freedom you've earned 1,000 times over. And truly, the best is still ahead. Before you go, I want to invite you to join this community of women rediscovering themselves after 40. If you found comfort, clarity, or even just a moment of peace in this video, please subscribe. It helps this channel grow, and it helps more women find the support they deserve. And if you have a second, leave a like and a comment. I would love to hear what resonated with you the most. Thank you for being here. Truly.